Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our episode where we talk about the 7 signs of emotional immaturity. In the previous episode, we have covered lack of accountability, blame shifting, and victim mode. And now we are going to talk about impulsive or reactive decision making, as well as lack of self-regulation and why they are important, how they are coming up in relationships and people's lives.
Oh, well, when I look into myself and I see the avoidant side of me, and I'm trying to bring back past memories where I also made impulsive decisions in my life, I understand how this type of thing works in the brain of a certain individual and how they are justifying that at the moment and later how they regret those decisions. Or sometimes not, but I want to separate the two because for me, mostly the impulsive decisions were not connected to cutting ties with someone, but rather if I was heartbroken or if I have had very intense emotions because something, I just went and did something which I normally wouldn't do. For example, I just grabbed my car and I drove 3 hours and just to sit on a cliff for the rest of the day and just to be away from everything and to have space and time for myself to breathe, or going on a crazy hike, which took so much effort and time normally, but I just made the impulsive decision to do it because I felt like that at the moment I do it or I explode. So it has to be done because impulsive decisions, I think, also covers for many, especially avoidant people, when they are cutting ties with someone all of a sudden because they start to feel overwhelmed by the relationship or the friendship having difficulties. And they just start to feel this overwhelm. They start to feel that something is off. And just one little thing has to snap or has to happen to trigger this impulsive decision and they cut ties. And later on, they regret it when they had the time to calm down and to regulate as much as they can regulate their emotional world and realize that it was a mistake. What do you think about it?
It's very interesting that you actually brought up one of the strongest features or traits, that's the word, of fearful avoidance. Yeah, and this happens because we are unable to communicate what is it that actually bothers us within the relationship or the dynamic because we were never really properly taught how to communicate our issues, or we choose the unhealthy partner or something is not going on properly that we are unable to resolve and resentment keeps building up. And sometimes as avoidants, fearful avoidants, we are not in tune with our actual needs. I have experienced that myself as well, that I didn't even realize. For a long time, I would be like, oh, this doesn't bother me. This is fine. And then suddenly it would explode. And then I would not know how to communicate. Sometimes the case would be actually, I am aware that this certain problem is an issue for me. And I keep trying to mention it, but not with the right tools. So obviously it's not going to make any change. It would come across like swearing at the other person or mocking the other person, passive-aggressive comments or pushing the other person, or just some really not proactive way. Because I just never knew how it would be that, hey, there is this thing that kind of bothers me. Would you mind if we could work on it together and find a way to resolve it? Because maybe it's not a big deal for you, but it's very important to me. And I would really appreciate if we cooperate on this matter and so on, as well as having a receptive partner for that who would be actually participating and helping that making happen. So obviously, if you are stuck in a relationship where nobody is really giving the other person, in my case, that's what was my experience, what the other person needs, then you always feel resentment because you're allowing yourself to be in that situation unknowingly,
Yeah.
kind of, and you're constantly letting yourself down and your needs are not being met, so you're unhappy, and then eventually your body is going to say, fuck this shit, I'm gonna go away. But then you're attached to this person, you kind of have memories together, you kind of appreciate the person, and then your anxious style switches on. And then it's like, oh, I don't want to lose this connection, actually, because there are so many good things about it. And it's just incredible what a roller coaster we are going through. And this I have experienced in other actions in my life as well, as not just within the relationship, but through my subconscious brain trying to meet my unknown needs that I wasn't aware of through impulse shopping or impulse eating, taking out food, takeaway, and so on. And people don't recognize that these impulse reactions within their life, within a conversation or a conflict or anything, it's a huge sign of their needs not being met and their brain trying to make it happen, but in a really aggressive way because they don't know how else to do it.
Yeah. It's completely true. And how you were talking, you just brought up like some old memories, because at the time I was also thinking about examples which can actually tell a little bit about my side of when my avoidance was speaking and when I was impulsive. And I remember that I had many times in my life with previous partners, even I think I can say with secure relationships too, but I still didn't feel safe in the beginning. And until that safety was established and we had a misunderstanding or I was mad, I always got so pissed off and I told myself, that this relationship sucks. I want to get out of here. I want to break up. It makes no sense to stay in this relationship. But in those ones, the secured ones, it was after that possible to discuss this. And as I seen that my feelings are validated and we can actually talk about it like two equal person, this went away. But later on in my life, I had examples, a fresh example where this never happened. My, crazy impulsive feelings as an anxious and avoidant person, because the fearful avoidant is both. It peaked again because of feeling mistreated, but it wasn't met with understanding. Yeah. So of course I made the impulsive decisions. Okay, I will cut this. I will end this now because it makes no sense. I'm not validated. They don't care about me, because this meant for me that they don't care about me. They don't care about me as a person. So I will cut it. And in my previous relationship, it happened a lot that we broke up, we come back together, we broke up, we come together, because the love was still there, the attachment was still there, but the needs didn't meet. At least for me, they really didn't meet. And it was possible for a short period of time to make some kind of compromises, but it was never long lasting. So then these impulses were much stronger, and I felt like I'm dragged back into a state of mind because of this instability where I don't want to be anymore. And unfortunately, this is not a person I can even develop in this matter, because they have a different struggle and they focus there. And my problems are not a priority for them, or solving these relationship problems are not a priority for them. And it showed. So at the end, the outcome was the same.
Yeah. So actually, even these very typical avoidant and fearful avoidant cutting people out of their lives, or breaking up quickly, or leaving the scene with all the door slammings and everything, is again comes from unmet needs, which is our brain is trying to meet so hardly. And I do remember in my longest relationship where I would do similar scenes. And because I felt unheard and misunderstood and let down in many ways, and my brain just was like, okay, then fuck this whole thing. This is not worth it. I'm gonna go. And as soon as I stepped out the door, I would feel anxious and hope that my partner is actually coming after me. And when I would see that he's not coming, why the hell are you not coming to prove that I'm important to you? Because that was again a need that I was trying to meet through this kind of action, because I was lacking all the skills to try and communicate that verbally or any other ways, and also the skills to find a healthy partner who would be able to meet those needs for me in a healthy way. So it's in every ways our needs not being met is leading us to make impulsive decisions, reactions, which is not helping the relationship and solving problems with people, as well as our own life problems. For example, impulsive shopping is not going to solve the problems. It's a dopamine hit. You're waiting for it, and then after you regret because, again, you didn't save enough money, or you are gathering stuff, you become a hoarder, and it's all clutter in your mind and so on. It's not going to solve your long-term problems. Same as when someone deactivates as an avoidant person and they feel the strong impulse when they are in a relationship to have relations with someone else, either a previous boyfriend, girlfriend, or someone random from a party or something. They feel that strong impulse. And because of that, they justify that, oh, then this relationship must be broken, or this is so well justified that I just need this right now. And I have to do it. And then after I will be fine. But no, these things are coming from such much more complex, deeper level needs that are not being met. In the avoidance case is they feel unsafe because they started to actually deeply attach to the person, and they feel suffocated, which they don't even recognize themselves. So all of these things, if people don't know about themselves, all they see is that, oh, you made me mad, or oh, this relationship doesn't work, we have to end it. And in some cases, it's true. In some cases, you do have to cut yourself off people because you do recognize, but then that doesn't definitely come from that impulse. You have the feeling, but you think it through, and then you elevate, you think, you balance, and then you see, okay, I don't think that this person is at that level to be able to resolve this. Plus, I have tried to communicate, and their communication style clearly told me that they are not able to take accountability, whatever. So now I'm going to let them go. And it's not always that brainless, okay, now I'm cutting this off.
No, absolutely. I mean, if I decide to cut ties with someone now, that's actually not an impulsive decision. I know the signs when somebody is not going to see my point and cannot be there as a support or cannot be understanding, and they are in a different part in their lives, maybe, so to say, and they are not in that level to understand what's happening. And the act itself, what they did is way too strong. Then I can just evaluate if it makes sense to continue this or not. And actually, this is betrayal, because I only cut ties when I really felt betrayed in the friendship in a way that I was always there, and the other person decided to see me in a wrong light, or to just not even think how something would affect me. And then it was not possible for me to turn back from it. But maybe it would have been if we could talk about it. Like if they were there, we were there for each other, and we gave each other time and then sit down and discuss it in a mature way, then yes. But in these past happenings, in these past events, this didn't happen with neither of those people. Because most of the time it happened that they betrayed my trust, and they were the ones who actually cut ties like completely, like blocking me and so on. And they never reached out ever again. If they tried, I would have tried to understand what were they going through, and we could have discussed it and maybe even maintain the friendship. But most of these were not even healthy friendships in the first place. So I don't know how these people are today, because everybody can change and everybody can mature. But at that point, it was not possible. With my current mindset, I would say that if we can discuss it, and it's not about deflecting the responsibility from yourself and completely ignoring my point of view, then there is a chance to discuss it. If it's just time, what is needed, because I also needed time in the past a lot when my emotions were on top of me and I couldn't think clearly, and I knew I can't think clearly, so it makes no sense to make the conversation now. But later on, when I could be more rational, I came back to the topic and I was open for discussion, because relationships, friendships are important, right? So you try to preserve them. Mistakes happen and it all matters. The only thing what matters is if you can discuss it or not. If you know each other's intention or true nature or not. It's always a two-way street.
Yeah, it is. And usually I think only unhealthy relationships break up. In the case when either both people get so wounded and triggered that they don't, because very often also unhealthy relationships stuck together despite of them being so dysfunctional, which is like codependency. But then in the case of where one half of the relationship is more mature, more open to solutions, and the other one is more deflecting and behaving more like a child at a mental level, emotional level, and that literally defeats the chance to resolve anything between the two people. But that's what was my case as well, is that I do understand how betrayal feels. That's a very strong feeling and trigger for fearful avoidance. We do need loyalty in our lives. If someone betrays us, that's a non-negotiable step. And I also, like, why I meant impulsive cutting off now, because it may seem like impulsive for the other person. Because until now you have been trying to solve this. So you've been trying to communicate in some cases, or you've been friends for a long time, and then suddenly they show something that you have not noticed until then, and you recognize that they are not there. You recognize that there is no going around, there is no resolving here, that you cannot make it work with them because they will just not understand. They will keep deflecting, gaslighting you, shifting blames. And then you have to, from one day or from 1 week to another, which is in terms of years of friendship, it may seem like an impulsive decision. But then you actually have thought it through based on these people's actions and words and accountability or lack of it.
Exactly.
So I guess we can move on to the next. Number 5, which is lack of self-regulation.
Yeah, well, that's a difficult one. Because self-regulation, you can choose to do it in a very, very damaging and bad way, or you can discover and start to do actually more healthy or productive ways.
Which one is the self-damaging?
The self-damaging, if you try to self-regulate with the substances, I think.
That's numbing. That's not regulation. That's not healthy.
But
that's just pushing things down.
Yeah, but that's what these people call self-regulation, because I heard from so many of them. Yeah, that's what they call a substance, which is alcohol, drugs, and because they try to feel as less as possible, and they learned that this is the way for it. And this is the first thing what comes to their mind when something happens to them, which is negative, and they try to bring their emotional level on that, more calm or more neutral way.
Yeah.
And I would call the healthy ones, if you are just out of anger, going out and run, or you do something, you move your body, whichever way you would anyway enjoy. And maybe you cannot focus on it at that moment because you are stuck in your mind. But at the end, you just notice that it actually helped.
Yeah.
And you were staying there with the emotion, because I think it's important to stay with the emotion when you're self-regulating. And nicely and slowly you are bringing yourself back. You can do this even with breathing. There are so many breathing techniques you can use, which can help you in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
I did that too. I mean, I'm doing that too. When something happens and I feel like I'm triggered, I started with like in, out for a few seconds. And it's so helpful. It's crazy.
Also, because it kind of shifts your mindset from the actual problem that caused you the hyper, focusing, or the hypervigilance, the stress that you are stuck in the loop in. But a lot of people actually, what you first mentioned, unfortunately, that's not self-regulation. And it's a very huge mistake that people call it that way, because they are actually not feeling the feeling that you mentioned. Yeah. They should be allowing themselves to feel. And a lot of people, they also go to the gym actually because they realize that they don't feel as stressed, or they go run out. And I can imagine that also the hikes you mentioned previously, for the previous impulsive decisions, would cause you to calm down. But then it's a very strong sign of a person who is unable to actually self-regulate at the moment in a safe place, and they have to remove themselves from the situation and from the actual environment that triggered them at the first place. And that's not very proactive. So this can be also communicated between the people when you need it, that, okay, I'm not there yet to stay here. I would really need to go out and have a walk, and then you can either join me, or I would really need to go to the gym, and I'm going to reflect on what's happening now, and then I get back, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. But a lot of people, they just remove themselves, and they think it's self-regulation, and also mainly avoidance. They need the me time because they were always left alone with processing anything, and then it became not processing. It's just they distract themselves with stuff, with games, with job, with reading, with music, with chatting with other people, until they don't feel that tension, but they never actually thought through what is it that was happening to them. They never really resolved it. They never resolved with the person. And because of that, it's going to keep coming back, and it's being stored in their body, that stress. So they think that it helps, but in truth, it's not helping, because they are just numbing themselves. And when they do it with substances, which I also saw with ex-boyfriends, with alcohol, with smoking, it's ruining their health as well as blocking the opportunity to resolve something together. So lack of self-regulation is really damaging both body health-wise and mental health-wise between two people, and the relationship is suffering for it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. The main goal would be to try to stay in the place and have so much self-awareness and self-knowledge already that we can just do it on the spot. To be honest, I don't feel like that I'm there yet. Sometimes I can do it, but I have to remove myself, and that helps because I directly start to process my emotions, and maybe it just takes 1, 2, 3 hours. I come back and I'm already feeling much better, and I see things much more clear, and I can be myself again, but I still need to remove myself most of the time. Depends on how big the trigger is, of course.
Yeah, I can relate to that, even though I haven't really had lately too much triggers that would cause me having to remove myself from an environment. I do remember having that in relationships, but then I actually, after some years, I wouldn't do it. I would, my brain would shut down literally because the emotional overwhelm and everything. But I was aware of that happening, and I already studied about it, and I knew how I can prevent the actual shutdown. And I would go and wash my face with cold water and start and pay attention more to my breathing. And that would direct me from the trigger thought itself. But it's really difficult. But I think the main point is how can you get to actual fully healed level? You have to communicate. As long as you communicate that, hey, sorry, I do need to go and climb the Mount Everest so I can calm down and come back.
Yeah.
So after we can have a chat about this issue, but please let me do this because I really need this. So as long as I think the person communicates and then after they get back, that builds an extra trust because your partner can see that, okay, you're following through your words and I'm able to be heard here. And I'm not being just left to process the whole thing. Although I used to suffer with this because even though I needed the me time to so-called process everything, when my partner needed to talk and I did not feel that I need to talk, I just couldn't. But when I needed to talk for some miraculous reason and I was rejected, I could not sit. So the other person also need to learn to sit and self-regulate themselves as well while they're waiting for the other person to self-regulate themselves, because very often people seek nervous system regulation from the other person, which is very harmful. So we do need to pay attention to that as well and develop an independence towards to that, but not over independence.
I mean, it can help if the other person is also mature enough that they can actually handle this situation and they can show support. It helps, I think, tremendously, but that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah.
So, well, self-regulation has so many colors, I think, and everybody calls it on a different name, and for everybody, a different activity comes to mind. But the main point is if somebody, as you very wisely said, choosing numbing with substance, with going and talking with other people, with getting in touch with their ex, because that's also an impulsive decision, which could help at that time self-regulate to see that, okay, I can still have options. All right, calm down. So you understand.
Yeah.
And these are all harmful ones.
Yeah.
So whoever trying to self-regulate this way after getting triggered, please understand that you should choose another way.
Yeah.
Because this is not leading anywhere.
Yeah. Also, like using people, what I already tried to cover is a very codependent way. Very often I notice that as soon as something happens, I would reach out to someone, and instead of actually sitting with my own thoughts, I have to talk it out. And that may be helping a lot, but then again, I am somewhere kind of distracting myself from feeling that actual feeling that I'm supposed to be feeling. Yes. And I just want to quickly let it out and quickly get rid of it. And then after, this done, I don't have to deal with this anymore. And good, I talked it out. And then if it takes hours, I'm going to do it for hours. So this is something that I personally still, I think, need to work on, because it's very challenging and it feels good. That's the thing, is people think that it feels good because you are kind of getting some kind of relief in a way, even with numbing, because that's no longer there. The feeling is no longer there, or it's there, but you're not feeling it that intensely. So it's so complex and so layered that we need to pay attention to. I think we covered the whole thing, actually. And we can move on to the last 2 points, I think, after this. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's say goodbye, and we are coming back in the next episode with the other 2 points.
Thanks.
So see you.
See you next time.
Bye.